Alright, thank you everyone for coming. First, we're going to have the lawyer Anoop Prasad debrief and tell us what happened in the court hearing today, and then we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you witnessed, how you felt, what you saw. And then we're going to have a little bit of a political education.
Can you move a bit over there so we can see you? And you're being filmed.
So Anoop is going to debrief about what happened. And then after that, we want to hear your questions, and we want to hear your feelings, we want to hear what you saw today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a staff attorney here at the Asian Law Caucus. So this morning we had a bond hearing for a community member, Amlorn Siratana. So the good news is the judge granted him bond. So his family's posting the bond right now, and he'll be released tonight and be back home with his family. One of the things the judge is supposed to consider when deciding whether or not to grant someone bond is if they have community ties. Normally at court hearings, the courtroom's empty. It's just maybe the lawyer, if they have a lawyer, and the person. When the judge sees every single seat in the courtroom filled with more people in the hallway, it has a huge impact. So you may not realize it, but by showing up this morning, you had a huge impact on winning his freedom. So I want to share.
When we support each other, we will win. So when we control each, control clear, the
So I wanted to share briefly his situation, his case, and it's very similar to a lot of what your families are going through. So like all of your families, he came here as a refugee when he was a small child. He started to get in trouble when he was 13 or 14 years old at school. And he ended up joining a gang when he was a teenager. He didn't get into any serious trouble, but in 1993, so 26 years ago, police arrested him because there was a stolen car parked in his driveway. And because around the same time, immigration law in the U.S. got very harsh, he was subject to mandatory deportation for that conviction. He's now much older, he's in his 40s, he's stayed out of trouble for a very long time, he's a grandfather. But none of that matters for ICE. So in August and September of last year, ICE carried out a series of raids across the country. Very similar to the raids that we've seen in our own community here in the last couple of weeks. So on the morning of August 28th, and before the sun had even gotten up, ICE went to Delano, California, a small town outside of Bakersfield, and raided the homes of 3 Khmer families. August 28th. Right, yeah. Much like Oakland, all the families knew each other. They'd all grown up together. 2 of them were related by marriage. One of the people picked up that morning, Chai Kim, was granted a pardon by Governor Brown. And so we stopped his deportation and he got released in December. Another one people picked up that morning, Sina Kun, was deported in December. We're still working on reopening his case and trying to get him back from Cambodia. But we kept fighting Amlorn's case, arguing that they applied the law incorrectly in his case. And we also had asked the governor to grant him a pardon as well. So today the judge held, because he was still fighting his case and he had been in for 7 months, and since he didn't pose a danger or wouldn't run, that he should be released from detention. So this means he's not out of danger yet. He still faces deportation. But he can keep fighting his case from home, and he has more time. So we're going to keep pushing Governor Newsom to grant him a pardon so that he's safe from deportation. But in total, ICE picked up almost a dozen people in California during those raids. But through a variety of different ways, pardons, vacating people's convictions, we were able to stop most of the deportations in California.
So thank you. Thank you to Anu. I'm so proud of our community. I'm so proud of the elders for being here today. And I know there are a lot of questions. I know that, you know, this picture right here, this is the first time that we gathered together with the Asian Law Caucus and the Asian Prisoner Support Committee. Eddie, can you wave your hand? So there's a lot of organizers. This is Sarah and this is Nate. Can everyone introduce themselves actually?
Yeah, I'm Sarah from the Asian Law Caucus. I'm one of the...
Okay, Nate, can you introduce?
Oh yeah. I'm Nate. I'm with Asian Prisoner Support Committee.
Me too? Oh, yes. Hi, my name is Maria. I'm with Aspire and Asian Law Caucus.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Lowe. I work with the new. We're at the Asian Law Caucus.
It seems like Asian Law Caucus is very successful in helping people out of from deportation. How do we get connected with you?
We're here. You can reach out to me, you can talk to me if you have a relative who's facing deportation. You can come talk to myself or Kevin or Jenny or Melanie.
Is there like an online if somebody can speak Khmer or you know some of our families do not?
Yeah, my number is limited, but you can reach out to Siri.
Yes, so now we're connected. This partnership with APSC, ALC, Aspire, we're one team. So Siri, we're holding the emotional support, the family support, the case management support. That's our expertise. We can hold the families.
So ឥឡូវហ្នឹងយើងSiri ហ្នឹងកន្លែងថា Siri ខ្លាំងថា Siri
Siri, like more.
Siri.
Siri.
Asian Law Caucus និង Siri នេះគឺតាក់ទងគ្នាយើងអាចជួយធ្វើការគ្នាហើយនឹងឲ្យរួមកម្លាំងគ្នាជួយមានអស់លុយអស់កាក់អីដែរ
No.
Free,
No.
free.
We're all free.
Free.
Yes, well,
You all get out.
we're all free. And the Asian Law Caucus, they're the experts in the legal field. They're our lawyers. They're our champions in the courtrooms.
So Elijah, I think you should in Khmer tell folks that if they have family members, they should be coming to us and
Yes.
this resource.
That's what we did.
Oh, okay, I thought you talked about Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I'm combining
Okay.
that we're all here together. as an
Together.
effort.
Okay.
So the Asian Law Caucus, yes, is the legal representation. We're the Khmer, you know, the language, we're holding the community, we will connect each other. And as well as the Asian Law Caucus connecting the families that they're already supporting to us for the emotional and communities.
ឥឡូវនេះបងប្អូនឃើញហើយយើងចូលរួមដៃគ្នាទៅយើងបានសម្រាប់យើងបានចេញហើយមិនយើងត្រូវតែនាំគ្នាចេញមកយើងស្គាល់តែគ្នាអញ្ចឹងប្រាប់ពួកគាត់ទៅថាយើងមកនេះយើងតាក់ទងគ្នាយើងអាចរួចខ្លួនបានជួយគ្នាបានព្រោះរឿងនេះមិនជាកំហុសរបស់យើងមិនកំហុសណាទេយើងសង្គមជាមួយគ្នាត្រូវជួយគ្នាអញ្ចឹង
And the Asian Prisoner Support Committee is also a part of this fight because there is a prison pipeline in our communities. Asian Prisoner Support Committee.
Asian Prisoner Support Committee ហ្នឹងកន្លែងហ្នឹងគេដូចថាគាត់គ្រប់ដែរគ្រប់កន្លែងក្រុមខ្មែរយើងមានដូចថា
Asian pipelines. It means that as a child in these communities, they first start with expulsion. They first start with getting in trouble with the principal. And then they find themselves on the street, and then they found themselves in a prison.
So let me sum it up. Basically, there's not enough support, so they end up in a place where they wound up in exposure, right? And get into trouble
Yes.
and all of that. So
They get rejected. They continually get rejected. Our community continually gets rejected with a lack of support.
សង្គមយើងហ្នឹងគឺថាមាន
Like they don't have teachers that understand them.
អត់មានគ្រូអត់មាន
They don't have jobs. They don't have after school
អត់មានគ្រប់
programs.
គ្រងអត់មានកន្លែងដែលនៅអត់មានកន្លែងយើងទៅជួយណែនាំឲ្យល្អមកឲ្យគ្នាទៅខ្លួនឯងហើយមកឲ្យកន្លែងណាគេយកទៅកន្លែងហ្នឹងប៉ះណាកន្លែងមិនល្អទៅដើម្បីនាំយើងទៅធ្វើកន្លែងមិនល្អទៅក៏មានបញ្ហាសាលាទៅកន្លែងកុកទៅកុកទៅសុខខ្មែរ
Yes, exactly. So we have Eddie, we have Nate, we have folks from the Asian Prisoner Support Committee that are actually going into the prisons to talk about their rights, to re-educate folks about what we are going through.
ព្រោះសមាគមហ្នឹងគេទៅកន្លែងកុកហ្នឹងដើម្បីបង្រៀនកុំខ្មែរនៅនឹងគេថាសិទ្ធិរបស់យើងបង្រៀនដើម្បី
And the major component of APSC is that they do re-entry. They help folks come back out into society, and they have a great success rate because they themselves were incarcerated. So they know what people have gone through inside the prison system.
សមាគមហ្នឹងគេទៅដើម្បីជួយដូចថាជួយបង្រៀនជួយណែនាំព្រោះពួកគាត់ហ្នឹងធ្លាប់នៅចឹងដែរហើយគាត់អាចបានធ្វើបានជោគជ័យហើយពួកយើងត្រូវនាំទៅចេញជួយគ្នាប្រាប់គ្នាបានដឹងមើលគ្នាឲ្យបានសង្គមយើងមានចំណងសុខសប្បាយរបស់គ្នា
So now we want to hear what you think. What are your questions? I know that people ask, is this going to help? How is only helping one person going to help? How is my voice going to help? Why should we continue to come? So we want to hear from you.
ពួកយើងចង់ស្ដាប់ពីរបស់បងប្អូនមានបញ្ហាអីចង់មានឲ្យខ្ញុំចង់សួរចេះមិញដែលឡើងពួកមិញណាចេញបានតែម្នាក់ទេតាមមុខនេះ
So she's asking, so this was only for one person?
Yeah.
And I guess the question, I think the underlying question is, how does that help everybody else?
Yeah, right. That's a good question. And a lot of times it feels like we have this huge problem and we're putting tiny little band-aids on it. But the way we build power is by one case, one person at a time. And so a good example of this is Eddie standing in the back of the room there. Eddie was granted a pardon by Governor Brown in 2012, 13?
15.
15. Feels like it's been forever ago.
Yeah.
So Eddie was the first immigrant pardoned by Governor Brown, right? You were the first, right? Yeah. And since then, Governor Brown started pardoning more and more and more immigrants. It started a snowball effect. So people mobilized just around Eddie's case, but the ripple effect of Eddie's case has helped so many immigrants. We've completely changed the pardon system in California, and that's all because people started by fighting just for one person.
ថ្ងៃនេះបានជួយបានតែមួយមែនប៉ុន្តែយើងចាប់តាមមួយហ្នឹងហើយនឹងគេបានលីងទៅជាចាំ
So one case at a time, one person matters. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. One moment.
កន្លែងនេះយើងអាចដូចថាមិនជួយដល់អ្នកគឺទៅស្រុកខ្មែរទេដូចថាយើងមានបញ្ហាខាងសាលាកាយអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចទៅមកបានហើយអត់
So they're asking, do you only help with deportations, or what else do you help with? Other different issues?
For the most part, we're focused on deportations right now, just because there's so much of a crisis in the community right now.
គេច្រើនពួកគាត់នឹងធ្វើដើម្បីជួយខាងប្រជុំសុខភាពរបស់ជាអសន្ន
But if people are having other issues related to workers' rights at your workplace, you can come here too. We have attorneys that can help with that. If you're in San Francisco and you're facing eviction, you can come here and they can defend you from eviction.
តែបើយើងមានបញ្ហាដូចជាកន្លែងធ្វើការឬក៏កន្លែងនៅផ្ទះអីចឹងយើងអាចមកកន្លែងនេះមានជួយបាន
I have a question. So I was just talking to a client whose husband has been in prison. Now he has to go to ICE twice a year, and they've taken his green card from him, and they've told him that he will never be able to have a green card. So when he went there last time, they asked him what he does, and he said, because I don't have a green card, I work under the table. So, I mean, he could say that to ICE. But is that true, that when someone's green card is taken from them, they can never have it back?
Yeah, that isn't true.
Okay.
Eddie can, they took Eddie's green card and now Eddie's a US citizen, so.
So can he come to you?
Yes, if anyone has a deportation order in the Khmer community, they should come to us, they should talk to us.
He doesn't
There's-
have a deportation order, but he doesn't.
It sounds like he does have a deportation order.
Yeah.
it does.
He probably does.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone has immigration issues related to a criminal conviction in the community, come talk to us. There's a lot of stuff that can be done.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna save more questions at the end. The presenters want to give more information, and this actually might help answer all the questions. So let's thank Nakru Marlai for and let's welcome Sarah and Nate.
Can you do that, please?
Hi everyone, it's so wonderful to be here all together. Thank you for being here. My name is Sarah again, and this is.
I'm Nate again.
And I wanted to give kind of an overview of what we're going to be sharing today.
This is Sarah. Sarah
So Elijah did a really wonderful job of sharing, the different organizations here. And I wanted to put this kind of in the really beautiful background of a lush rainforest.
Yeah, so Elijah នឹងបានប្រាប់ថាសមាគមនេះទាំងអស់នេះហើយប៉ុន្តែ Sarah នឹងបន្ថែមក្រោយទៀត
Because the immigrant rights movement and anybody who's trying to get people free kind of represents like a rainforest or an ecosystem.
ដែលយើងតែតាមមកដល់ចង់បានសេរីភាពហ្នឹងគឺត្រូវតែដូចថាតំណាងដូចតំណាងព្រៃចឹងតំណាងព្រៃក្នុងសហគមន៍
In order for all of us to be free, in order for the earth to be luscious and healthy, every single person has to play their part.
មុននឹងយើងបានមានសេរីភាពឬក៏មុននឹងដូចថាជាព្រៃនឹងល្អខៀវខ្ចីនឹងគ្រប់គ្នាយើងត្រូវមានសកម្មភាពគ្រប់គ្នា
Sometimes, even for myself, it's like, what can I do? I'm not a lawyer.
ប៉ុន្តែដូចជាខ្ញុំដូចជាសារថាខ្ញុំថាខ្ញុំធ្វើមិនកើតខ្ញុំមិនមែន lawyer ខ្ញុំមិនជាជំនាញ
But kind of like Elijah shared, Siri is offering the emotional, mental, physical health that is like a huge portion of the work that needs to be done.
ដោយ Elijah បាននិយាយឲ្យថា Siri នឹងសមាគមខ្មែរនឹងគឺឲ្យទឹកចិត្តគ្រប់គ្រងទឹកចិត្តជាមួយចិត្តយើងដែរគឺជាជាមួយអង្គការ
And it's not just Siri as an organization. Who was here last Friday and talked to some of the Asian Pacific Islander elected officials last Friday? Who was here?
Yeah. I've got one. Can I stop? Yeah, downtown. Who's on there? Yeah. Good job.
That's my picture. So I wanted to share what I noticed when those who came to that event, when you all sat down in front of the elected officials came straight over to your table because they were like, oh, those are the people that I need to talk to and that I want to take a picture with.
Yes.
I know you're not there.
Like there was an assembly member and a treasurer.
ប៉ុន្តែពួករដ្ឋាភិបាលហ្នឹងពេលឃើញយើងទៅអញ្ចឹងអង្គុយអញ្ចឹងពួកគាត់គឺសម្រុកទៅខាងយើងអង្គុយនឹងឲ្យថតរូបថតអីជាមួយយើងបានថាយើងសំខាន់ណាស់ទៅអញ្ចឹងគឺសំខាន់ណាស់
They recognize that you have power.
គេយល់ថាយើងមានកម្លាំងហើយកម្លាំងហ្នឹង people power means កម្លាំង
We have strength in numbers.
And so I want to, this is the question for today, right? You know, where is your power? What is your gift to this rainforest or ecosystem?
ចាមានចំនួនថាថ្ងៃនេះថាឯណាដែលកម្លាំងរបស់យើងឯណាកម្លាំងសាមគ្គីរបស់យើងដែលដើម្បីសាមគ្គីយើងដើម្បីឲ្យមានប្រៃឈើខៀវ
And so I think this is really encouraging to know that yes, each of us have power and that we are part of something bigger, right? Like all these different organizations here in the Bay Area, including even communities outside of the Khmer community, right? People saw that there was another court hearing happening at the same time.
So ពួកយើងមានវិធីកម្លាំងចឹងប៉ុន្តែយើងមានកម្លាំងជាមួយសមាគមគេផ្សេងធំទៀតចឹងណាប៉ុន្តែមានគេក៏មានដូចយើងចឹងដែរ
And there are other communities here in California who are doing the same thing, fighting for their loved ones to get them out of detention and stop the deportation.
សង្គមគេក៏ដូចយើងចឹងដែរទាមទារដើម្បីយកក្រុមគ្រួសាររបស់គាត់ទៅចេញមកពីកិច្ច
Here's a family I worked with where the mother fought for her husband's release, and after 6 months in detention, he got out. And I want to recognize, you know, all the women and family leadership, often who are kind of putting themselves out there to do a lot of the work. And, you know, many of the people here often are women. So let's continue to uplift the leadership of the women.
And can we recognize that Kamali is here, and she's one of the women, and Rumini.
So the rest of this time together, we will be looking at kind of understanding, you know, what is a pardon exactly.
Yeah. So when we talk about ways to stop deportation, we're also looking at ways to make families whole and entire. So later on in this presentation, we're going to talk about PJ. So I think I'll let you translate that first. And PJ was someone we worked with in San Quentin State Prison, who was directly transferred to ICE when he came out and spent 18 months in ICE. And it was one of the few cases where we were really trying to fight deportation for someone who was a direct transfer to ICE. Oh, he was in prison for 20 years, over 20 years, and then ICE for 18 months.
For 18 months, PJ นั่นคือជាខ្មែរ right នៅជាប់កន្លែងគេនឹង20ឆ្នាំជាងទៅចេញមកចូលទៅកន្លែង ICE មក18ខែ
And we'll talk about his campaign and what lessons we can take away and the long-term vision of having you all involved. And I'm going to give it to Noop to talk about legal ways to stop
Okay, so this is a little bit complicated. So most of our community members who are being deported because of a criminal conviction.
ដែលអ្នកគេបញ្ជូនទៅហ្នឹងគ្រប់គ្រងតែខ្វះមានបញ្ហាប្រកាន់
And for most people, that criminal convictions happened in California.
ភាគច្រើនហ្នឹងមាននៅ California.
So even though deportation is a federal issue controlled by people in Washington, D.C., their deportation case started in state court here in California.
ទោះបីជារឿងច្បាប់បញ្ជូនហ្នឹងជាច្បាប់រដ្ឋអាមេរិកក៏ដោយតែសំណុំរឿងហ្នឹងគឺចាប់ផ្ដើមនៅ California.
So the federal government is very anti-immigrant, very racist right now.
សហរដ្ឋច្បាប់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកសម្រាប់ជនភៀសខ្លួនឬក៏ជនអ្នកដំណើរមកមិនមែនជនភៀសហ្នឹងគឺ
And it's been like that for a very long time, even before things have gotten very bad under this president. So since it's difficult for us to fix things in DC, we try to fix things here in California. California and its elected officials pride themselves on being pro-immigrant. What that means is that we as a community can hold elected officials accountable and make them step in to protect our communities. They're not going to do it on their own, out of the goodness of their hearts, but we can make them do things because they're accountable and responsible to us. A lot of you who showed up to the listening event last week in Oakland, that's one way in which we can hold members of government in California accountable. So there are a few things that California can do to fix people's deportation cases. One way is that the governor of California can grant a pardon for someone's California conviction. A pardon basically forgives or erases the conviction from the person's record. And once the conviction's gone, if that formed the basis for the deportation order, we can then get rid of the deportation order too. Pardons used to be very, very rare. But because a lot of community groups, and not powerful community groups like Asian Prisoner Support Committee, very small groups, often all volunteer-based, spent years advocating with the governor's office to use his power to grant pardons. because of that, we got Governor Brown to grant more pardons than any governor before in California history.
ពីព្រោះតែយើងតាក់ទងចឹងហើយបានតែ Governor Brown ថ្លៃខេត្ត Brown ហ្នឹងបានឲ្យអនុគ្រោះច្រើនជាងដំណាក់
And in particular because we fought so hard for Khmer communities, a disproportionate number of those pardons were going to Cambodian community members facing deportation.
ព្រោះតែយើងវាវាយខ្លាំងទៅដល់ឲ្យសង្គមខ្មែរយើងហ្នឹងមានសេចក្តីអនុគ្រោះឲ្យបងប្អូនខ្មែរគឺបានច្រើនជាង
It's a small community in California. It's not that big, but I think close to a quarter of the pardons to immigrants were going to Khmer community members.
សង្គមយើងវាតូចហ្នឹងមិនតែប្រហែលជា1/4ដែលគេអនុគ្រោះហ្នឹងទៅជាជនខ្មែរ
And it's a sign that this community is small, but you have a lot of power.
នេះគឺបញ្ជាក់ថាសង្គមយើងតូចមែនតែយើងកំពុងការ
So I can't even remember the names of all the Khmer community members who have been pardoned in the last year. Moni Nap, Ratana Kong, Sir Un, Bana In. There's just so many community members who are facing deportation, often days or weeks away from a flight, who the governor stepped in and protected them.
គាត់មិនអាចចាំបានថាប្រហែលអ្នកឈ្មោះអីខ្លះទៅច្រើនតែគាត់ជួយខេត្ត California Brown តែហៅថានិយាយឈ្មោះពី3ហ្នឹងតែច្រើនអត់ได้ធ្វើអស់
A pardon is not going to work in all cases.
សេចក្តីអនុគ្រោះហ្នឹងគឺមិនអាចធ្វើត្រូវគ្រប់យ៉ាងទេគ្រប់កម្ម
But we're identifying the cases where a pardon can help and are going to ask the governor to grant a pardon.
ហើយយើងរកស្លំរឿងណាដែលអាចតែក៏ទៅជួយខេត្តអាចធ្វើឲ្យយើងជៀសវាងឲ្យខេត្ត
We have a new governor in California, Governor Newsom.
យើងមានច្បាប់ខេត្តថ្មីច្បាប់ខេត្ត
He's younger and
from
San Francisco, and he wants to be seen as a friend to immigrants. He also, I think, thinks he can be president one day.
Governor White Patterson got from San Francisco got named got by John for Rapandray and Canal and I got John got for got John Cho the man had got on Chile from John Close to John Chip and
So we need to make sure Governor Newsom is held accountable to our communities. So we're doing that through phone calls to the governor's office.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day do some kind of tweet. So
Yeah.
18 now.
And if they can't speak English?
Right.
Yeah.
So you can also, we have a petition. And for the petition, it's online, but it's very easy. You just need to type in your name. And it will automatically send an email for you to the governor's office.
How often the petition?
You can sign the petition once, but then you can also tell everyone you know to also sign the petition. It just takes a few seconds.
ទៅទូរស័ព្ទហើយជួយសម្បានយើងអត់ដែរហើយមាន petition ហ្នឹងគឺយើងអាចនិយាយសិឈ្មោះគេតាម internet.
So who signed the petition already? Here. Who has a Facebook? Here. Who has Facebook?
Now you mean Facebook Live?
I think almost everyone here has a Facebook. So we're going to sign, everyone's going to sign the petition, and then we're going to post it on your Facebook. That's how we can help. So instead of just posting pictures, putting this on your Facebook, you have how many friends? How many people have 100 friends on their Facebook? How many has 1,000 friends on their Facebook? Okay? All of us have the power, people power. Everybody needs to hear this story. So we're going to sign it and we're going to post it on our Facebook.
And it might seem like you just type your name into this web page and hit return and nothing happens, right? But we know that the governor's office gets flooded and they call us often, or they'll tell us, like for PJ, Nate got how many thousand? 35,000 emails sent to the governor's office asking for a pardon. The governor's staff later told us that we had shut down the email system. So we get their attention.
PJ ហ្នឹងគាត់បាន35,000ហ្នឹង35,000តែគាត់មិនជួយខែហ្នឹងតាក់តងមកលើចាស់ដល់ណាត់គេណាត់តាក់តងនឹងគាត់គឺយើងមានកម្លាំងមានថោ
For other people, if a pardon doesn't help them, another way is they can go back and vacate their conviction in criminal court.
អ្នកខ្លះយើងមិនអាចអនមិនអាចអនយើងអាចខកបានយើងអាចទៅយកសំណុំរឿងយើងទៅ
And district attorneys, the prosecutors, have a lot of control over whether or not someone's conviction will get vacated.
What does that mean, to be vacated?
Basically, it erases the criminal conviction. And prosecutors in California are elected too. That means since they're elected, we can also hold them accountable. So in short, I know it seems like we're just a handful of people in this room, but even smaller groups of people who aren't rich, don't have powerful friends, have completely shaken up California's government system to protect our communities from deportation.
So remember when we all voted together at Siri? Siri? We voted for Fiona Ma, the one that took a picture with us. If she doesn't help us, we don't have to vote for her. We vote for somebody else. That's the power that we have as citizens. We should use that power. And that's the same with the district attorney, the May TV. That's the same with the governor, and that's the same with the assembly member. All these people that told us in person that they would publicly help us, if they don't do what they told us they would do, then we don't have to vote for them.
And I think also they were talking about last week about the census 2020 is coming up. So make sure we're going to count everybody in our community so we can get the funding, more funding from the government. Yeah, so census 2020 coming and our community is going to be take charge. Right, Mona?
And enroll them in this process.
Yeah.
Cô có bên sự nô sự tôi thấy này chắc để chung thoát ra hai những cái này vài khai bên bàn củaเราได้ai quật chui bàn này
So the question is, those that have already been deported in Cambodia, how do we help them? Can we help them? Do they have a case?
So the governor can still pardon people after they've been deported. DAs can still agree to vacate people's criminal convictions and they can come back. We brought 2 people back so far from Cambodia after they've been deported in the last year. I went to Cambodia in 2016 and we did legal clinics with people who had been deported, and there are a lot more people we know that we can bring back home.
He was just saying that some people said that only if you have family here that you're able to come back. What if you don't have family here?
You can still come back if you don't have family here. Every case is different, but a lot of times we're able to get a pardon or vacate someone's conviction and bring people back if they don't have family.
Would be those with their family.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We are their family.
So now we're going to talk about PJ's campaign, because I think PJ's campaign provides a lot of lessons for us who are new to the deportation movement. So this is PJ. But before we get to talking about PJ, we're going to talk about how we got to this point right now. Right? How did we get to the point where we're fighting deportation of our community members? So in the 1960s, the United States was going to war with Vietnam. And when it was going to war with Vietnam, also carried out secret bombings called Operation Menu in Cambodia. This event gave rise to the Khmer Kaham, which then later caused a large refugee resettlement of Cambodian Americans to the United States. All this, I think everyone knows, for the most part, yeah. So the 1975 to 1990s was one of the largest refugee migrations in U.S. history. This picture to your right is actually a picture of my family at Khao Ui Dang in Thailand. Yeah.
Wow. When
did they all immigrate here?
1983.
Big family.
They all met there.
You 1 year before me.
Oh yeah.
How were you here?
Oh, I was born in Oakland. My mom waited. But the refugee resettlement process also meant that the United States had to bring in Cambodians and resettle them all over the United States. And the United States had a plan. They said if we disperse all the refugees that come here, the more likely they'll be American. And these are the cities that they dispersed them to.
យើងអាចខ្លាចជាជនជាតិគេឬ
ខ្ញុំមកពី Minneapolis That's me
ខ្ញុំហៅវាណាទេ North Carolina ម្ដងនេះ
So if wherever you see these are spots of large refugee migrations. Also, these are spots where there are a lot of Cambodian donations.
The purple spot?
The green.
The បៃតង ពណ៌បៃតងហ្នឹងគឺកន្លែងដែលខ្មែរយើងដែលខ្មែរយើងតែខ្មែរនាំគ្នាធ្វើដំណើរមកដោយថាយ៉ាងហ្នឹងគេដាក់យើងពេញហ្នឹងប៉ុន្តែយើងមិនឃើញដល់មកយើង No, butយើងដាក់តែយើងនាំនឹងរើកន្លែងមកហើយអាចឡើង donut shop like no
Maybe we should point where we are just in case
We are here.
I don't know.
Yeah. And at the same time that refugees were resettling in America, something really particular was happening in the United States. Yeah. So in the 1980s, when Southeast Asian refugees were coming from Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, the United States was also going through the largest prison building project the world has ever seen.
នៅឆ្នាំ80ហ្នឹងនៅឆ្នាំ80ហ្នឹងអាកាំងដែលគេនិយាយថាគេធ្វើខំខាំកាសាលាខំខាំនេះគុកគេធ្វើគុកច្រើនរងច្រើនជាងដែលមិនដែលឃើញគេតម្លើងគុកច្រើន
So there was cuts in social benefits. There was increased funding to police. Schools were getting defunded. Public assistance was getting defunded. And the United States was responding to poverty, not with assistance, but with incarceration. The same cities that were being impacted by high incarceration rates and high police activity were the same cities that Southeast Asian refugees were resettling in. So, Southeast Asian refugees were arriving here in what I call the perfect storm. They were resettling into places where they were likely to be criminalized and incarcerated. So I think something really specific happens when you're poor, you come from war, and you resettle in a city where there's high crime.
No, crime means what is crime? Mean
Thank you, PJ. So this is a graphic of the prison expansion across the years. So if you see that arrow, the United States declared a war on drugs. At the same time, Southeast Asian refugees were coming into the United States. So right now, we're a little past 2012. but we still have a lot of prisons that a lot of Khmer refugee folks are still getting funneled into.
ឥឡូវនេះយើងមកពីនេះមកពីពីប៉ុណ្ណឹងពីខែទាំងកាយដែលមានខ្មែរច្រើនដែលបានចូលក្នុងកុកនោះមិនប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រហើយកុំខានពន្ធនាគារបាទអាហ្នឹងវាពាក្យគេនិយាយធំគឺថាវារស់ស្ដាប់
So since 2002, normal people like myself who don't hold a law degree have been trying to find ways to fight incarceration of the Cambodian American community and deportation of the Cambodian American community. Yes.
តាំងពី2002ម្ល៉េះសមាជិកសង្គមយើងនឹងបានទាមទារកុំឲ្យមិនដូចជាយើងមិនសមាគមយើងធម្មតាមិនមានជាលុយជាទីនេះក៏ដោយហ្នឹងទាមទារដើម្បីកុំឲ្យដាក់កុកកុំឲ្យហើយកុំឲ្យជួលចឹង
And this is PJ. This is PJ. So I met PJ in 2015, and PJ was monumental. I met him inside San Quentin State Prison, and I've been going inside the prison for 6 years now.
I forgot. I was looking.
Nate PJ in the prison 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, Nate នឹងជួបជាមួយ PJ នៅខំខាំនៅទីខំខាំរងតិចនៅទីខំខាំហើយជាមួយឆ្នាំហើយ
And PJ was a really great, dear friend of mine when we met. He was paroling out, meaning that the state of California said he wasn't a threat to society, so he would parole out. But immediately after he paroled out, he was directly transferred to ICE.
PJ នឹងគឺជាបច្ចុប្បន្នហើយPJ នឹងគេឲ្យថាគេឲ្យចេញទៅគាត់អត់មានគឺថាមានផ្ដល់ខ្លួនឯងគេនឹងប៉ុន្តែពេលគាត់ចេញទៅគេបញ្ជូនគាត់ទៅ ICE ក្រោយ
And PJ was a really good friend of mine, and I didn't want to see him get deported. So myself and Asian Prisoners Support Committee started the Bring PJ Home campaign.
PJ នឹងគឺជាមិត្តស្វែងរកអត់ពេលនឹងមកហាត់គាត់ខ្ញុំហើយនឹងសមាគមគឺយើងមកក្នុងនោះតែមានទាឲ្យខ្មោចជួនPJ.
And PJ's story is like many of those who are currently in ICE detention, resettled here into a poor neighborhood, experienced a lot of violence, and did what he could to survive. And doing what you could to survive sometimes means you end up incarcerated. So PJ's family, I'm gonna give PJ the mic right at the end of this presentation so he can tell you more. But PJ's family resettled in Stockton, California. And in 1989, PJ was a middle school student, or an elementary school student at Cleveland Elementary School. And that same year, Cleveland Elementary School had the worst mass shooting in Stockton's history.
PJ នៅ Stockton ដែលនៅឆ្នាំ89 PJ នៅសាលា elementary school like បឋមសិក្សាហើយកន្លែងហ្នឹងពេលនៅរយៈហ្នឹងគឺគេមានគេមានសាលាបាញ់តាមសាលា
So this was one of the first introductions into American society, right? So Khmer folks resettled from war to refugee camps to Stockton, where the violence seemed all the same. So Khmer folks were always asked to survive by any means necessary, and sometimes that cost us our lives behind bars.
ឲ្យរស់នៅដោយខ្លួនឯងធ្វើអ្វីក៏ដោយឲ្យទៅរស់ប្រហែលបាក់ណាស់បាក់ខ្លះទៅក៏យើងអាចនាំឲ្យយើងទៅជួបកំណត់
So when PJ was transferred to ICE, we visited him as much as we could, and we called him as much as we could to support him.
ពេល PJ នៅ ICE ពួកគាត់ទៅជួបហើយទៅទូរស័ព្ទទៅជួបពេលដែលអាចជួប
So this is him at 630 Sansome, the building we were at earlier today. Yeah.
នេះ PJ នៅ building យើងទៅប្រហែលនេះ What floor?
This was the 5th floor. 5th floor? Right, 5th floor. Yeah.
What year?
2018, 17, 17.
Oh, people number នៅ building យើងទៅប្រហែល
And we told PJ that we want to see him free and home and with his family.
ពួកយើងប្រាប់ PJ ថាយើងចង់ឲ្យ PJ នឹងមានសេរីភាពហើយនឹង
So we sent PJ, or so we got all these people in the community and we told PJ's story. And we had artists draw PJ's story on a postcard that we can mail into Governor Jerry Brown.
ពួកយើងនឹងប្រាប់និយាយពីរឿង PJ ចេះតែឲ្យវាទៅសង្គមយើងចឹងហើយអត់ពួកគេគូនឹងចាគឺយើងតាមចិត្តហើយផ្ញើទៅ
We actually had a really famous book author create this for PJ, and we mass printed it and distributed it out so everyone can send it into the governor's office. That's me. We did every strategy I think we can think of at the time. And I remember this day really specifically because it was my birthday. This was April 25th, and people asked me, "Oh, what do you want to do for your birthday?" And I said, "Oh, I want to bring PJ home." And then they're like, "Okay, what do you want to do that's plausible?" And I said, "Oh, let's go to Sacramento and tell people about PJ."
So this is Sacramento?
Yeah, this is Sacramento.
Oh, okay. Nate, yeah. But they forgot them got the number to Sacramento. What were you doing there?
We were talking to our elected officials about PJ. And to your left, these are PJ's family members. So on this day, I said, let's reach out to PJ's family members and provide support and see how we can get them involved in this campaign. And the first thing PJ's mom said to me was, I thought I was going to lose my son forever. When you gave me a call, I finally had some hope that he might be able to stay. On this day, PJ's mom doesn't speak a lot of English, but she spoke in Khmer to probably over 15 elected officials about why her son deserves to stay. At this point in the campaign, we've called the governor's office, we've talked to elected officials, we showed up to court hearings like what you all did today, and we were really determined to get PJ out of ICE and with his family. We called, sent in mail. Yeah, we went to all court hearings. We did a lot.
Everything you could do.
Everything we can do, we did. And we were really pushing it. It was at this point where we probably reached about 20,000 materials sent to the governor's office. And all of us here and everyone who participated in the campaign, they weren't attorneys, not everyone had a college degree, but we all wanted to come around this issue. Our determination to keep PJ home is what really kept us going in this campaign. And the effort was a lot of work, but on the Friday before Mother's Day, we got a call from ICE, and they said, hey, we're letting Mori I or PJ out. Someone better come get him. And then we're all like, oh, so this is what persistence does. And I think I stay in this work. I've been in this movement work for 6 years now, and I stay in this work for wins like this, but also because of moments like this. Is it okay if I show this, PJ? Okay. I'll have to request access.
When was that?
The Friday before Mother's Day.
It was last year?
Yeah.
Oh. Ngày sau một Mother's Day in May was May. Oh, the 3rd May, the 5th of May. I still called our PJ Chen
Sarah, do you have to give permission?
I have to give permission.
PJ ត្រូវចេញពីកន្លែងសំខាន់ហ្នឹងណា
ចា
PJ ត្រូវចេញពីកន្លែងហ្នឹងណា
ចា PJ ចាញ់ពីកន្លែង ICE កន្លែងយើងគិញបាញ់ហ្នឹងណា PJ
So on the Friday before Mother's Day, PJ was released from ICE, and his brother went down, and a few of us went down to go pick him up. And then I remember we FaceTimed, and he said, "I'm gonna go surprise my mom." And I said, "Oh, you probably shouldn't surprise your mom because you don't want to give her a heart attack." So, but he did anyway, and these are the moments that we're fighting for.
PJ គាត់ចង់អបជាអនឡាញគាត់ចេញហ្នឹង
So PJ was out, and the fight wasn't over. So PJ is still deportable, but we found it that it was a win that we got PJ out of ICE detention.
PJ បានចេញហើយតែ PJ នឹងក៏នៅអាចគេជួបបានទៀត
So I work 3 jobs to survive living here in the Bay. What I do for this is not a job, I don't get paid for it. I took time off to travel all across the state of California to talk about PJ's campaign. And this is us talking to students about the importance of fighting for people to stay with their families in the United States.
នេះធ្វើការไปកន្លែងដើម្បីគ្រប់គ្រងជីវិតហ្នឹងហើយយកពេលវេលាធ្វើការហ្នឹងដើម្បីគ្រប់សហរដ្ឋហ្នឹង got for free.
But we do it because we love PJ and we love, we know that Khmer people deserve to be with their families after surviving war, genocide, and resettlement in the United States. So Anoop said earlier that we made a lot of noise. So Asian Prisoner Support Committee made a lot of noise in the governor's office. We shut down their emails, we blocked all their lines, they stopped answering our calls because we sent over 35,000 pieces of material to their office.
So many things.
So we made so much noise that the governor of California said, okay, we hear you, you're kind of annoying, but we want to give PJ the fighting chance to stay with his family. So they asked us to go to, they asked PJ to please case in Board of Parole hearings, which is another court in Sacramento. And PJ, this was also a win for the campaign, was recommended for a pardon. So we're still waiting for the pardon, but this was a big win. These are usually the same people that show up every time, like 10 to 15 people. So it's such a blessing to have you all join the movement. When I go visit my family lives in Union City right now. They always ask me what do I do for work. And I always show them this picture. Because my Khmer is not that good, so I always show them pictures. And I say I help people inside prisons. And there was one time my grandma asked me, why do you do these works? They're criminals. And I said, because if it was me inside there, you would do the same for me. And she said, of course I would, and then she hugged me, and then she kissed me, and she told me, good job. And that's why we do this movement, right? Because if we love people the way we love our family members, we will do anything to fight for their freedom. Because you all are my family, I'm also fighting for everyone's freedom in here and your loved one's freedom. So PJ's story is really important because his story is part of kind of the Southeast Asian narrative that is not commonly told. And his story is also really important because I think it demonstrates what the long-term goal is, right? To keep fighting for people's freedom. Sometimes in this work, there's losses, sometimes we feel defeated, but it's always really important to remember that the fight is long, and as long as we have each other, eventually, you know, when we fight, we win. So PJ's story and all the stories of our loved ones from Oakland who are in ICE detention right now is part of this large movement across the nation to fight to keep our families together, to fight for survivors of war. So I want to give a few minutes, maybe 3 to 5 minutes to PJ to talk about his campaign and the long-term vision. So can we give PJ a round? 5 minutes.
Đây chú kê đó, có những tân nhưng trên cái sát hạt cái sọt này nhé, hay nấu khế nhưng cho kê nhưng còn khoai thì các bạn có thể cho kê đâu nhưng có kho, rồi kho chọc cũng hay cái nhưng nó có cái cài cuốn, tàu viên tàu ấy đấy, cầm rồi cùi chưa chân nó cũng nắng hay hai bọc nam bọc mũi nam nhưng cái lọ này đấy cái cao nhưng trên một cao tại tôi có một cái nắm thì bây giờ trên màu đấu ai chắc nhau mấy bạn chút bạn vào ai hay mà chút năm của bạn đọc bày hải năm chín bạn thấy căn đâu không có nhưng có mấy sự không á tôi đã khơi cái chuyện đó hay cái trang không nhiều chỉ cần khai có số mai lo khai đó cái khai có chuyện này tại phụ mạ nhưng đây anh màu cả sẽ có phải nhầm sẽ tạo ôi mình sẽ không mọi chọc á thấy nhầm cái kho của mình đai kho bóng ôn được chui nhầm nấu cào đâu thấy năng lõ nhầm trên cái pro cái chơi chôn mai là chơi chôn chân chui thì chơi sẽ có chơi á cái bảo đây nhầm đâu bảo đây nhầm ban nó cào hay mấy năm ấy chân buôn năm ấy hay buôn khai chân buôn khai hay nhầm tất cả chúng tôi cùng APC chúng tôi cùng chân chui nữa hay ở đây nhưng mơ cao nhưng nó cũng nhưng đại khơi mai màu sốt mai đấy nhé tại anh ấy quay lo hơn cái thợ bôi ở nút hay cô mang đâu nên cái gạch chúng ta đấy nhé cái băng ao nút chút mai màu trong chút cô sai vậy nhé hay khi được khai muốn cái chun mai đã bao cái chào tàu á màu vậy nhé trong chút cô sao vậy kia chúng ta nhưng mơ đâu nhưng mơ mình đứng thay nhưng họ sẽ không có những khai có những mình đứng nhưng mình chạy hay chúng ta này ai về bạc có từ thơ về bạc thì thơ chứng hay cái chu nhưng tàu hay những tranh nhé tại bây giờ không viên sự không đó chúng ta gì xí hay giống mong người giống bò chứ tôi mình cao mong mình lại viên sự không tàu đấy đó viên sự không hay tàu that governor president California bọn nhung không thưa lọ đâu không cài khuôn đâu không chui chôn đâu kịp khơi nhưng nó kịp lần thầy nhưng mong kịp thầy như lọ cái mai như lọ cái thầy của những người lọ ấy như ao đâu chụp công cụ sai cái chui được mà cái ban nhưng mà nói đấy cha mà ta governor đứng ở president California บอกกับจงช่วยnhóm á cái ao nhómพอเลยเป็นเอาเส้น
อันนี้ครบ
bà ao nhóm luôn đó cái ao đó ao green card វិញទៀតហើយ6ឆ្នាំបរិបត្តិ green card 6ឆ្នាំហើយមិនបាយធ្វើខុសធ្វើអីខ្ញុំធ្វើ citizen បានទៀតអញ្ចឹងមិនថាបងយើងឥឡូវនេះtôi trong chui chung khai với tôi cái nó không mấy là tôi chưa chui khai tôi mới là đồng bên chơi slap chơi ấy đó là dư đó là dư slap chứ nên chơi slap chứ nó tay không mới chưa chôn dân chưa chôn yuan mong thầy từ trong trên cái chơi chui smart khai với mình đây và theo đó là dương một tấn là nó hiện lên chuyên môn đấy mà chạy trong đó nó phong như thơ ca một tiếng trong ao mà cũng khai với một chút kia từ mũi á thì thơ chơi đâu bằng mũi này là xử lý ao ban mà o không smart ý dùng mà không may vậy trong ban em nói đến thơ chạy vậy bao nhiêu cháy một cái chút tập ra lên tua này cái
ai mình quân tố à
tại nhưng trong thời slap tiếp của nhưng không đơn giản nó không biết nên nó máy spot tên tay tay cái bóng bỏi á tay cái chọc ấy dùng hay năm khăn cái máy dùng tay máy áแต่เราบูนคล้ายเราจุดไม้จุดเด่นไปมาติดต้อง
ยังก็ใครเองทั่วไม่เป็นอย่างคนนะ
So let's clap it up for PJ. So part of this workshop is for you all to feel empowered to keep going and keep doing the work. And I think a lot of times we look to attorneys as the real heroes in the movement, and attorneys they're great, but we all have a stake in power in this movement.
យើងមកថ្ងៃនេះហ្នឹងគឺដើម្បីឲ្យយើងរួបរមគ្នាឲ្យយើងមានកម្លាំងចិត្តយើងអាចធ្វើបានហើយពេលខ្លះយើងថាមានមេធាវីដែលមានកម្លាំងអាចធ្វើជួយបានទាំងដែរ
So we're gonna do a closing activity with a really amazing organizer, Maria, and Maria will lead you all in the activity. Yes.
Okay. How was it when we fight? We win. Hey! How was it in command?
Failure, the job.
Yes.
Let's do it again. Failure, the job. Failure, the job. Failure, the job.
When you say those words, I feel a strength flowing to me. I feel ancestry. I feel your will to fight going to me. So like a river that goes for years, that's your voice going to our generation, to the next generation. Okay. So my workshop is about for me to be with you and like to know that you all have a superpower that helps us protect our community.
សកម្មភាពរបស់គាត់ហ្នឹងគឺគាត់នឹងធ្វើជាមួយនឹងដើម្បីកត់ស្ដាប់ពួកយើងហ្នឹងមានមានកម្លាំងរបស់ចាមានកម្លាំងរបស់ចាហ្នឹងហើយដើម្បីជួយជំនាញ
Yeah, like early this morning, I was like, oh my God, what do I do with the table? And you were like, let me help you, right? And you were like, okay, I can use my strength to pull the chairs. That was amazing, and we were able to coordinate together, and that's the point of organizing. Yeah, so I see you like I see my grandma, but 45 times. Yeah, and when you show up to court this morning, I could hear like my grandparents, like my mom here, like it's the same love when they ask me, have you eaten? It's the same as you being like there, like you love Amlorn, you love your community, and that's the same love.
She said the court is too small.
Yeah, what we need to do is to break the cord. Don't make it bigger, break it. Right? Because if we show up in numbers, I'm like, oh, do we need more space? Like, no, you need to end the tension, so we don't have to count. Yeah. So are we feeling energized? Are we feeling happy about Amlorn? That he's coming back to his family? Do we feel that? This is the community power we need. This is it. Yeah. So, okay. They are my friends, and they were in line waiting. That's yeah. They show support to other people too. So I'm not going to show the video, but well, maybe a little.
I work as an organizer or to be a superhero figure. So ICE protesters are upset over about 150
You see?
arrests by ICE.
That's San Francisco and Oakland and everywhere in California.
Here in the Bay Area, we see as always the Bay Area showed up.
Yeah, so what we were fighting is to end ICE. So who are these people? These people are like you. They're parents, they're our friends, they're teachers, they're our aunties.
They're being my friends.
Yeah, it's like you, but you were in Oakland that time, so. So that's the same power. All this,
And efforts like
that,
there's
like the same power as this morning. Yeah, it's like whoa. So this is how I see you all.
double roles like being the MC. My favorite thing about being the MC was reading off the energy of the power we need to be able to carry our force field to protect the community and keep ICE out.
heavy and complex work, but it is one of the purest forms of love towards the community.
If we want to achieve our freedom, superhero figure, I would be a master storyteller. I would have the power to control my story and stories of undocumented immigrants and how they're portrayed in the media. More now that I've become a lip
In every city.
and if there isn't, there will be. There will be.
So their superpowers is emceeing, is storytelling, and protecting the community.
ដល់កម្លាំងដែលអស្ចារ្យហ្នឹងគឺប្រកាសកាប់រឿងដែលក្នុងសង្គមយើង
Do you have a superpower?
តើពួកយើងមានកម្លាំងអស្ចារ្យ
Yeah! Oh yeah! That's exactly what I wanted. So I just want to say there is a superhero inside of everybody right now. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 45 superheroes.
គាត់ថាយើងម្នាក់ៗហ្នឹងគឺជាអ្នក superhero ឯកទេស
Right. And so we're going to explore that.
អ្នកកម្លាំងចិត្តហ្នឹងអ្នក
Oh, yeah, you're all leprechaun? Yeah. So what we're going to do is to explore our own power, right?
យើងមិនស្រាវជ្រាវកម្លាំងយើង
So I'll start with myself. My superpower is drawing. My superpower is art.
គាត់ក្លាហានខាងគាត់នឹងគឺជំនាញខាង
Yeah. So I did this. Thank you. I painted dummy too. Thank you. Because I love them. I love that community, and I'm lending this superpower to protect this community.
ហើយគាត់សម្លាញ់សង្គមហ្នឹងហើយគាត់ជួយជំនាញរបស់គាត់ទៅជួយសង្គម
Yeah.
ជំនាញគាត់គឺ
And I want you to lend that superpower to a bigger community.
ហើយគាត់ចង់ឲ្យពួកយើងហ្នឹងជំនួយយកជំនាញរបស់យើងហ្នឹងកម្លាំងរបស់យើងជួយទៅសង្គមជាតិធំ
Yeah. Because I see you all.
គាត់ឃើញពួកយើងនេះគាត់ឃើញពួកយើងទាំងអស់គ្នា
Hey! That's you! That one? Yeah! And that's you too! We have superheroes here! Yeah! So can somebody tell me if you know your own superpower? Like for example, oh yeah, my superpower is drawing, right? On this superhero, and I protect the city of Oakland. Oh. But okay, what's your superpower? Driving safely, talking, listening, cooking. Joking. Yeah, joking. We need that joy.
And singing.
Oh, sing. Oh, you sing. Oh. I think that singing carries like the voice of older generations to this generation, and I think that's an amazing superpower. Sorry.
គាត់ចង់ថាយើងនឹងមានជំនាញខាងអីចឹងណាហើយគាត់ថាជំនាញគាត់ខាងកម្លាំងនិយាយស្អីថាមិនដែលយើងម្នាក់ៗហ្នឹងគឺមានជំនាញគ្រប់ហើយជំនាញយើងហ្នឹងគឺអាចយកទៅជួយក្នុងសង្គមយើងបានអ្វីក៏ដោយដូចជាគាត់ហ្នឹងជំនាញខាងវិញ្ញាណ
What's another superpower?
ជំនាញខាងអ្វីទៀតគាត់ចង់ដឹងជំនាញពួកយើងចូលរួមគ្នាសាមគ្គីនេះគឺជំនាញមិនចឹងជំនាញមិនអាចយើងសាមគ្គីជំនាញ Unity, right?
Unity! Oh yes! That's a superpower! superpower that, you know, it brings us together. Yeah, I love that.
Everybody has that.
Everybody has, yes, everybody. Yeah, we have 45 people united to protect our community. Okay, good. Any other superpower?
There's a lot of knitters here. There's
Knitters?
people that make food.
Oh, Cambodian sausage. What other superpower? We are so strong, y'all. We're so strong.
There's gardeners here.
You garden? That's so cool. So my activity. So I want you to draw your superpower as a superhero.
អបចរយើងគ្រូដែលយើងនិយាយមកឯង
Yeah. And then we'll put them up here. And then we can show Governor Newsom, hey, we have 45 superheroes. Yeah, and we want the liberation of our community members. Right? Okay, that's great.
Maybe stand together and then just take a breath so that we can stand up and shake it up a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
So, homing on knock near shoulder. And we'll stop the palm and stretch. Shake it out. Alright, shake it out.
Okay, how about yes? We fight our injustice. We're fighting injustice, right? We're expanding our community. Woo! Reach out to your loved ones, to your family, and we're just going up for liberation. Yes. Okay, good. So now, are we